Thomas stared at his reflection in the mirror. It had been 5 days since he'd found the heart beneath the lighthouse. 5 days since it had woken up, and the changes were undeniable now. His skin had lost all color, turning a sickly pale gray. His eyes had darkened, the whites turning gray, the pupils expanding until there was almost no iris left. When he breathed, frost formed on the mirror, and his hands moved wrong sometimes. The joints bending just a little too far. The fingers a little too long. He was running out of time. Thomas had spent the past 5 days preparing. He'd raided every supply in the lighthouse, gathering everything he might need: rope, flares, fuel, the emergency raft tucked in the storage room, and explosives, old demolition charges left over from maintenance work decades ago. Still viable, still dangerous, his plan was insane, but it was the only plan he had. He was going to destroy the heart. The ancient thing beneath the lighthouse was the source of everything. The transformation. The creatures. The curse that had claimed every keeper who'd stayed too long. If Thomas could destroy it, maybe he could break the cycle. Maybe he could stop his own transformation. And if destroying it killed him in the process, well, that was better than becoming one of those things. Thomas gathered the explosives and descended the hidden stairs. The chamber below was different now. The heart pulsed faster, stronger. The ice had spread, covering more of the walls, reaching toward the stairs like frozen fingers. And the faces trapped inside had multiplied. Thomas could see them all now. Every keeper who'd ever served Sentinel Rock. Dozens of men, spanning more than a century, all trapped in that frozen prison. Edmund Price's face was near the surface. His mouth moved, forming words Thomas couldn't hear but could understand. "Don't do this. You'll wake it fully. You'll doom us all." Thomas ignored the warning. He placed the charges around the heart, wiring them together with practiced hands. He'd been a demolition technician in the Navy years ago, before he'd become a ship captain. He knew what he was doing. The detonator timer gave him 5 minutes. Enough time to reach the surface. Enough time to get to the emergency raft. Enough time to get clear of the blast radius. He set the timer and ran, up the stairs, 3 at a time. His transformed body moved faster than it should, stronger than before. Maybe the only advantage to what was happening to him. Through the ground floor, out the door, down the rocks toward the small dock where the raft was tied. Behind him, the lighthouse seemed to shudder. The heart knew what was about to happen, and it was angry. The creatures emerged from the water. Not 3 or 4 this time. Dozens of them. They'd been hiding in the depths, waiting. Now they climbed the rocks, moving to intercept Thomas to stop him from escaping. Thomas grabbed a flare and fired it into the nearest creature. It shrieked and fell back into the water. But more came. Too many to fight. He reached the raft, cut the rope, and pushed off from the dock. The current caught him immediately, pulling him away from the island. Away from Sentinel Rock. Away from the lighthouse. 30 seconds left on the timer. The creatures dove into the water, swimming after him. Thomas rowed desperately, putting distance between himself and the island. Not far enough. He'd never get far enough. 20 seconds. The voice came again. Not from the radio this time. From inside his head. The ancient thing beneath the lighthouse, speaking directly to his transforming mind. "You can't kill me, Keeper. I've existed for 10,000 years. I was here before humans walked the earth. I'll be here long after you're gone. 10 seconds. You're part of me now. Part of the deep. Running won't save you. The transformation can't be stopped. 5 seconds. Thomas closed his eyes. Maybe not, but I can take you with me. 0. The explosion lit up the night. The charges detonated simultaneously. The blast focused downward into the chamber, into the heart. The sound was deafening. The shockwave hit the raft, nearly capsizing it, and from Sentinel Rock came a scream that was felt rather than heard. A psychic shriek of pain and rage that made Thomas's ears bleed. The lighthouse shuddered. Cracks appeared in its stone walls, and then, impossibly, it began to collapse. Not falling outward, but sinking inward as if the ground beneath it was giving way. The entire structure tilted, groaned, and vanished into a massive hole that had opened in the rock. The island itself was collapsing, folding in on itself like a sinkhole. The creatures in the water thrashed and screamed, pulled down by the same force dragging down the lighthouse. And that ancient voice in Thomas's head suddenly went silent, cut off. Gone. Thomas stared at the wreckage. Sentinel Rock was gone. The lighthouse was gone. The heart was destroyed. And he was still alive. He looked at his hands in the darkness. Were they getting darker? Or was it just the night? He couldn't tell anymore. 3 days later, a fishing boat found him. Thomas had been drifting in the raft, delirious from dehydration and exposure. The fisherman said he kept talking about lights in the water, about things that climbed, about a heart made of ice. They thought he was crazy, traumatized by whatever accident had destroyed the lighthouse. The Coast Guard investigated. They found debris where Sentinel Rock had been, wreckage from the lighthouse. But the rock itself had vanished, collapsed into some underground cavity. A sinkhole, they said. A natural geological occurrence. Tragic that Thomas had barely escaped. No one mentioned the creatures. No one mentioned the keepers who'd transformed. The photographs Thomas had found were lost with the lighthouse. The journal, the evidence, all of it gone. Thomas was taken to a hospital. They treated his exposure, his dehydration. They said he was lucky to be alive, that he'd make a full recovery. But Thomas knew the truth. At night, when the lights in his room were off, he could see his reflection in the dark window. His skin was still pale. His eyes were still dark. And sometimes, when he breathed, frost formed on the glass. The heart was destroyed. The lighthouse was gone. But the transformation hadn't stopped. It was slower now. Much slower. Maybe it would take years instead of weeks. Maybe he had time to find a cure, to stop it somehow. Or maybe he was just delaying the inevitable. A month after his rescue, Thomas received a letter. No return address. Inside was a single photograph, black and white, faded with age. It showed a lighthouse, not Sentinel Rock, a different one. On the back, written in familiar handwriting, was a messagey. There are others. Keeper. 23 active lighthouse stations along the coast, all built on thin places, all calling to the deep. Sentinel Rock was just one. If you want to stop your transformation, you need to destroy them all, before it's too late. The letter was signed with a name Thomas recognized from the journal, a keeper from 1962, one who had supposedly died in a storm, but he was still alive, transformed, yes, but alive, and fighting. Thomas looked at the photograph, at the new lighthouse, at the battle he'd have to fight, and he made a decision. If destroying one heart had slowed his transformation, maybe destroying them all would stop it completely. He had work to do.